I'd like to call our public hearing meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We're located at 2350 South 25th Avenue. I'll do a roll call. Mr. Clerk?
Roll call, trustee Abraham. Actually, for the budget hearing.
I would like to do a roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Trustee Abraham is absent. Trustee Chamalave?
Here.
Trustee Senior?
Here.
Mayor Thompson?
Here.
Trustee Shelby?
Here.
Trustee Armour? Absent. Trustee Miller? Absent.
So it's, the public hearing is not, a quorum is not required, so I'll please ask for everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the presentation of the tentative annual budget. So we'll watch the video. So if the trustees want to go down and watch the presentation, this presentation actually took place 2 weeks ago when the finance chair had a finance committee meeting, and it's regarding this budget. So.
And thus, why in my budget I have a new computer? Okay. All right, so that one finally opened. All right. So we can start while we're waiting. I'm going to start with an overview, and you guys can't see it all. How do I make this work? Well, we're just going to have to go back and forth in here. All right. So I have an overview for each fund. I just had a thought. Able content. Kevin, there he is. Hey, could you go into my office and take one of those mouse? You'll have to take the little part that plugs out of here. Just give me a wireless mouse, because this thing is not cooperating. Okay, I will start here. So at a 50,000 feet level, the general fund is expected to take in $21.6 million in revenue and only expend 19.6 in expenditures. That gives us I said 21.6, I hope. That gives us, from this year's activity, we should have a $2 million surplus. But what we always have to remember is during the year, we have to transfer funds from the general fund to cover expenditures in other areas. Thank you. Give me 1 second, people. This will speed us up drastically if this works. And of course, it's not going to work. Yeah, it's not working from the map. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, all right, we're okay, we're in business. Okay, so from this year's activities, what we're going to bring in revenues and what we're going to spend in services in the general fund, we are actually going to bring in 2.4 million more. But remember, we're going to also have to take some of these funds to put them in other funds, and we'll get into more details of that as it comes along. So the net effect of the year, where we're going to be hitting our fund balance for about $416,000. Now, even though that number's a negative number, which we've got to remember, at the end of 22, we had 5.5 million in fund balance. And 23 and 24 have been bankers. So we have significant fund balance in the general fund. And by going ahead and expending this money, there's two portions that I'll get to later. It's going to allow us to do things that will magnify the expenditure, i.e. it's a matching part of a grant, or prevent us from taking on debt to acquire large capital assets. So even though that number shows negative for this year, we have a lot of built-up fund balance from the prior years. The garbage fund is pretty straightforward. It has been break-even for a long time now, but we are now starting to see increases in our fees that we have to pay to the Metropolitan garbage place where we take everything to the dump. So we're going to have to visit that this year. I did not put any increase in here, but I would recommend that we examine that, because the expenses are getting to the point where it's not break even. The expenses are getting a little bit more than the revenues. And we're making up for it this year by bringing some money in from the general fund to bring it to zero. IMRF is the same thing. Every year we have to fund the IMRF account. IMRF, fund number 7, just follow along here. Fund number 7 picks up our IMRF pension payments, but it also picks up our Social Security, Medicare, and FUTA taxes off payroll. So we have to move money from the general fund to cover those payroll taxes, and we also have a line on our levy that brings in tax revenue that pays the IMRF portion. Motor fuel fund, I'm going to speed up because I'm going to talk about these in detail when we get there. You see, we're spending money that we've already collected, we have in the bank. We've got a couple street projects this year that we're going to pay for, and that's what the expenditure's for. CDBG, we got a grant. The grant portion was for $200,000. The whole project was $475,000. So the village has to come up with, to get that $200,000, we got to spend the $475,000. So we're going to be, that's part of the transfers that you see above in that $2.4 million. Emergency telephone system. This has been off of our budget for the last couple of years since the Ike 911 center opened. But there's been some money trapped in there because there's only certain things we can spend it on. Luckily, one of those things is radios. And when we get to capital, we're going to find out that we're going to get a lot of radios, and we're going to be able to actually use some of these funds. So they will be going towards one of the capital purchases. Roosevelt is its last year that it will be earning any increment. We are expecting a little bit more tax increment, but we have enough money in there to pay right now. If that increment does not come through, we have enough money in the balance right now to pay for all the expenditures that occur. 17th Avenue, it's pretty much done for. We're earning interest. The TIF itself has expired, and this should be off of our books by next year. 19th Street TIF, and for those of you that don't know, each TIF has its own separate fund, its own bank accounts, because all that money and all that activity have to be segregated by the way the TIF Act set all this stuff up. So these all have their own fund and their own related bank account. 19th Street is the, I'll call it the Chase Plaza thing over here. It's where the Chase Bank is in that strip mall. The developers agreement is they're getting the increment up into a certain dollar amount, so whatever we earn, we pay out. The little bit of difference that is in there goes to auditing fees. So what comes in and what goes out, it's almost equal. There's not a lot to see there. Roosevelt TIF, we're going to spend some money. I'll get to that more detail when we get to that TIF. Debt service fund, we're going to pay our debts, issue our rollover bond. It's pretty straightforward. Capital projects fund, which everybody wants to talk about, is going to have significant activity this year, and I'll just wait until we get there to go into that detail. And then I want to point out on the water sewer fund, because and you can't see it here, but it's been negative for the last few years, and that's because we are very conservative here. We are budgeting $700,000 for emergency water main, sewers, improvements in the budget, but it only gets spent if they occur. And we've been lucky, not as, if you saw how much we were spending 10 years ago, because stuff was breaking all the time. We put the money in here to spend it if we have to, but we only spend it if we need to. So that's why that particular balance goes negative. All right, so after just that brief summary, I'm going to switch over to the actual budget handout that you guys are looking at. Nope, not that one. This one. See, I've programmed my computer to go really slow so I have time to rest and have a drink. Mr. Mills didn't bring what I wanted him to bring for me to drink.
You did say you put a new computer in the budget.
Yes, I did. As you get older, you get slower. That's the nature of things.
Is that it at the bottom right? Is it open down?
No, that's the one I tried to open right before the meeting and I opened the wrong one.
No, that's sitting that little blue box over to the bottom right here. It's a little bit in there.
This one?
No, up on
No, that's. Oh, here it is. Yeah, all we gotta do is start talking about something else and it'll open. Yeah, and we gotta make it where you can see it, and then we'll be good. Kevin, why is it not responding? Got any ideas?
Just an Adobe,
Yeah. PowerPoint.
anything else on Adobe?
Here we go. Okay. All right, so now let's get to the right PowerPoint. All right, and then close that. And I found it now. Just found it, but it doesn't seem to be enlarging. Ah, slowly but sure.
It's just gonna be slow.
I'm not used to being this slow. Okay. We'll just start off here. You guys see there? All right, we'll start off with the revenues the village is going to earn this year. And I'll point out the one thing that's really helping, two things that are really helping us out, really. Property taxes are pretty much steady. Property taxes increase by CPI. There's an increase, but it's what the PTEL law allows. Where we're getting significantly more money is sales tax. Last year, we budgeted 4.5. We are currently at 5.1. And the state is projecting a 3 to 5% increase on top of that. So we're being conservative and budgeting 5.1 because that's what we got last year. The state believes that it's going to be higher. And that kind of makes sense because the sales tax is fixed, but the price of everything is going up. So if you're getting 10% of the dollar, you get your 10 cents. You get 10% of $1.50, now you're getting 15 cents. So that it makes sense that the sales tax would be going up. But some of our other taxes have went down. Specifically, the utility taxes are trending below, cable service taxes are trending above, and our video gaming taxes have increased. Use tax is a couple things, but that's where our income is coming from. Cannabis sales is coming into this line too. So for the year, we're looking to get almost 700,000 more than last year out of the property taxes and other taxes. Intergovernmental, the one that is very hard to call here is state income tax. We actually showing a little decrease, but I saw the most recent thing that Springfield put out. They're now saying maybe a 1%. So we're going with our original estimate because we don't want to get risky. The other big one is replacement tax. This for fiscal 22 and 23 has been a lot of money for us. What we did find out this fiscal year is they made a mistake. They overpaid us by 5%. So we're actually decreasing what we had to what we think it will be. It's going to be less because the state has actually now fixed their mistake, and now they're going to take 5% of each of our payments to recoup their money. And grant funds. We are recognizing the part of the ARPA funds that we are going to expend this year. So when we get the funds, they actually become a deferred revenue. You can't recognize them as a revenue until you actually spend them. So that's the planned ARPA expenditures. And then license permits and fees, it's all pretty much standard. Basically, oh, I forgot to say, Tim Hicks got called out of town, that's why I'm doing the presentation in his stead. Tim worked with the building department to come up with the estimates of what they think they will be. We're showing, roughly $125,000 increase in license permits and fees for the upcoming year. Investment income is up because interest rates are up. So the money that we've got sitting in bank accounts earning that whatever small amount, that's why the interest rates are coming up. Now, this next section, charges for services, I want to point this out because this plays into when we get to capital. The last couple years, we have been getting from the federal government extra payments on our ambulance services. It's called GMET, and that stands for Ground Emergency Medical Transport. We have not been putting those payments into the budget because, to be honest with you, we didn't know if we were actually going to get them. But now we have 2 years of receiving them. So we're actually putting them in the budget, expecting to get them this year and spend them. But what I want to point out here is the last year in particular, we took that money, opened a new bank account, deposited it in there. So it's like, it's not a savings account, but it's a separate account just for the GMET payments and what we're earning off our fire department contracts. So we're using them as a savings account. When we need to buy equipment, whether it's a fire truck this year or an ambulance next year, we will already have saved the money, had it sitting there in the fund balance of the general fund. And then we can go ahead and make those big equipment purchases without borrowing money and paying interest to, over time to, basically, we have the cash to buy it because we thought about it, we saved it, and now we don't have to borrow the money later on. So right now, we are including it in our budget, and if we need to in the future, we're going to part of it will still be saved away for us to get the next one, 5, 8, I'd say 25 years. What? They tell me a fire engine will last about 10 years now. So, okay. And what is next? All right, this thing is jumping all over the place. So there are some other smaller items, traffic fines, building code violations. It's all based upon, the estimates are based upon the past 3 years of what we've got. Okay, so that gets us through the revenue line. So you can see at the bottom line the revenues, last year it was 19.3, this year it's going to be 21.6. It's a pretty significant increase in revenues. Primarily because we're recognizing in the budget that GMET money that's coming in and the increase in sales tax. The first department we want to look at is the executive department. And let me say a few things before we go into the departments because it'll just answer, it'll go through some questions overall. So for this year, the village has decided that all of employees are going to match the union's last union contractual raise. So across the board, everyone's getting a 3.5% raise. Now, because like if an older fireman retires and then a newer fireman replaces him, that's actually a cost savings for us because the older guys are on a higher tier. Or if someone was just hired like in the last few weeks, those raises didn't apply. So when you take those adjustments into account, even though we're giving 3.5% across the board, because of the other adjustments, it lowers the expense to the village to 3.9%. So that's one thing. Healthcare, pretty much flat. It's projected to be negative if everyone keeps the same plan they have today. But since we've done this a few times, we realize a lot of people switch to the higher plans if it's cost effective to them, which could increase our costs. So we left it flat. Insurance was pretty much flat. So a lot of the things that would cause big fluctuations in the departmental budgets are all coming out positive this year, and we don't think we'll see any large increases. So we, the 3% in the personnel column, it's actually down a little bit, but that's just because of the mayor don't get, thank you very much. Oh, and the trustees don't either. Yeah, the mayor's the trustee, it stays the same. Employee benefits, that's the health care that we were just talking about. Contractual services, now you see a large increase in professional services, 5201, but that is related to an ARPA expenditure. We're putting the program in there for now. We might have to move it, but we've got to allocate the ARPA funds in this budget, and then we have to December of 26 to spend them. So we're allocating them in the budget, and then hopefully it'll the energy. Oh, okay, all right. The ARPA is the 180.55 below, and this is the energy grant. Okay, gotcha. And I'm looking for anything else that is significantly different, and I'm not seeing it. That's about it. So you've got the energy grant being included in here, the ARPA expenditure being included down here. Everything else in that department is pretty much straightforward. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on. Yeah, I like these first two because they're pretty straightforward. The village clerk's budget only changes in years when we have census. So there's not any items that are. Okay, all right. So that one's straightforward. Same thing as prior years. The building department, there are no, oh, I'm sorry, not building, boards and commissions. There is a little bit of an increase, but it's primarily due to we have a lot of open positions in the fire and police department. We're gonna have to do some testing. All right. All right, so that takes us to the finance department. If it will let me just go down. Why it won't, I don't know. The big change in the finance department is all right, I went too far. The whole summer workers program is going to be in the finance department. So there's $33,600 set aside to hire local youth to work for the village during the summer. We had that spread out before, but we wanted to make it, put it in there so that everybody could recognize what we're doing. The other expenses that increased in the finance department, audit services, you can see it's almost doubled. There's a very simple reason for that. We're doing 2 audits. It is doubling. In this fiscal year, we started, the last audit was fiscal 20. We've done 21 and 22. Next year, we're going to try to do 23 and 24 and be caught up. And I'm just recognizing that we're going to have to pay for 2. The other increase in there is you will see the IT budget has been added to the finance department because we don't really have a separate place for it. There is a consulting, that is the contractual cost that we have for our technical support for the village. And also, trying to find it. We're upgrading our software, so there will be a one-time fee this year for that also. And we're also moving the expenses of the Broadview webpage into the finance department. Mainly, that used to be part of the executive budget, but it's mainly to consolidate all the IT stuff within our department. So there is an increase for the finance department. Some of it is one-time fees, others is that we're absorbing costs from other departments into ours. After finance, you've got municipal buildings and grounds, and that's basically everything at City Hall. That's where we're paying custodial services. That's actually a contract now with a firm that comes in and does all custodial duties in the village. The other things that we put in here are for like the building declarations for when we have to put up the banners for the death and other events that the village might be doing. And we put also, we allocate money in here in case something breaks, so that R&M is repair and maintenance for the buildings, repair and maintenance of grounds. That's just based on a 3-year average. There isn't a specific thing that's for, but we know every year something breaks. So we're just taking an average and putting it in there. After municipal buildings and grounds, we come to the building department. And Dave, you have if you want to do your little, you have the PowerPoint if you want to. Okay, I'll handle it. You just speak up if there's something you want me to talk about. Okay, so salaries all apply to the salaries apply to the 3.5%. Not a big change in the benefits. Actually, there's not a big change in much in this whole department. The one thing that you see is this $150,000 in inspections. It's called inspections plumbing, but what the same firm that we're using for plumbing, electrical, and building is covering all 3 positions. So we're putting that money into that account because that's where we're in the paying it out of.
That is correct. Pretty much for the building department budget, Tom already spoke to the increases for the employees. Our building department is properly staffed now. We have 2 full-time positions and 3 part-time officers.
3 part-time employees, 2 administrative staff, and 1 part-time code enforcement officer. We'll be working with the police department for the Roosevelt Road corridor, looking at code violations as well as writing parking violations up and down the Roosevelt Road corridor as we look to control the traffic and control our residents and customers who are patronizing our community. The outside of that, everything pretty much is the same. We are in the process, and Tom can speak to this because I'm not really sure where we are right now, but the building department is looking to purchase 3 new vehicles, or at least 3 new vehicles. We've spoken to Enterprise Leasing Company. I also have estimates to purchase 3 new vehicles if, in fact, that agreement is not satisfactory to the Village of Broadview. And those 3 vehicles, pretty much about $150,000. That's also loaded with the technology where the code enforcement officers will be able to write tickets, print tickets on site in their vehicle. They have it's almost set up like a police vehicle. And I think that's about it. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Chief Bryant, would you like to speak? Sure. You want me to do the PowerPoint? If it will open. Just tell me when you want me to go forward.
For the fire department, as far as in the salaries, the director already spoke on the raises that were distributed throughout, and they were, as it relates to the salaries.
We gotta wait for this.
Oh, I thought you said go ahead.
No, I thought we were ready too. It's just, there we go. Now. All right, that's your department summary.
That's it?
You got a
Okay.
copy?
I'm good.
Okay, good.
As far as in the salaries, as the finance director already spoke on, they were all in the 3% range, 3.5% range throughout, and contractual. The employee benefits are pretty much consistent with last year's budget, as well as the building and grounds budget went up just a little bit because we got to take care of some capital projects. Other than that, everything is consistent. And we do have 4 open positions on the fire department as well. Anyone have any questions?
No questions.
Oh, yeah, we were able to find a rescue pumper fire engine that's currently already in production. Instead of waiting 36 months, since it's already in production, the term is a demo, so we can get it by September. It's going to be $1,085,000. $85.
Okay. We'll just skip all the rest of this. There we go. I apologize, guys. This computer is just, I think it's at its end of its life. All right. Back to here. Yeah, we're going to talk, the fire truck that he was referring to is in the capital, it's a very large purchase we're putting in the capital fund. Okay, so back to the overall. I'll mention it here since we're talking. The fire department is also the recipient and the lead in getting a AFG grant, which is going to allow us to upgrade our radios, not only our personal radios, but the radios in their trucks, and bring them up to current standards. And I could let the chief speak more to it if he wishes. Okay. So there is also, that's going to be in the capital fund, but that is a huge accomplishment for the fire department getting this grant. Overall, it is a $1.7 million grant, but only a portion of that is Broadview. So we're going to end up getting about slightly under $400,000 of equipment for about $122,000 outlay. So it is going to save the village a significant amount of money, but more importantly, it's going to allow our fire department to talk across the board to all the other fire departments and themselves without having the issues that they have to work around today. All right, after fire, always comes police. Tom, would you like to go through your PDF, or you just want to hit your items?
I'll just pick
Okay.
key items, kind of got a little
Okay.
cheat sheet. So for the police, for budget year 2025, we actually, our budget is decreased by 5.2%, $386,000. And that basically comes from, we suffered a lot of shortages throughout this calendar year, this fiscal year. A lot of the officers who left were senior officers making the highest amount of money. And of course, we brought in a lot of young officers, new officers, so they're starting off at the lower level. One great thing I'm proud to state, and it's really looking good, we have 3 recruits that will be graduating the academy April 26th. So of course, they come in at the low salary, and we actually have 2 more we're processing. So that gives us 5, and we will be interviewing our first lateral hires. Now, they will come in at probably a tier 2, tier 3 salary, but not at the max salary. So that afforded our payroll salary to come down without sacrificing any public service or public safety to the residents in the village of Broadview. Actually, we'll have additional manpower at a lower rate. And also, as we know, Deputy Chief Pierre Smith resigned in February. We will be promoting or hiring a deputy chief at some point in this fiscal year. But as of right now, we have 3 lieutenants who's doing a great job where we are. Of course, our overtime was up in 2024. That's to be expected with all the shortages. But with the addition of the new officers, we project a decrease in that. We are fully staffed in our Ike 911 center. We did go to a private towing company, which will now burden all the responsibilities and costs that the village had to incur. So every time we towed a car, we had to pay the towing company for towing the car. Then they would bring it to our lot in the back here, and we were on the hook for all storage fees. And it's funny to say, probably 60% will come get their cars. We have a lot of cars back there that no one came, but we still had to pay the towing company. And then we are still on the hook for if a car should get damaged, things like that. So now we have a towing company that they handle everything. Storage fees, all we take in is the administrative fee where they have to come in, the vehicle owners to pay for the processing fee to get the car. So that's an expense that load our towing price substantially in our budget for fiscal year 25, that we won't have to have that responsibility. But other than that, the mayor and the trustees have supported the police tremendously in allowing me and the officers to provide the services that we are, and we're looking forward to a great year in fiscal year 2025. That's all I have.
And I also wanted to point out one of the big contributors to the decrease was we are continuing the process of putting the amount towards the pension that the accrual reports, their recommendation. Not the minimum, not that in-between number. We're doing the full contribution. This year, their contribution actually went down a little bit. So, I mean, that saved a couple $100,000, just that one item. Okay? So after police, we have the streets department. I just couldn't figure out where it started. All right. Streets department. Again, all the raises and the personnel are based upon the 3.5%. How? Oh, you want to talk about it? Go ahead. I didn't see you back there.
What am I talking about?
Whatever you want to talk about.
What is it, streets? Public Works?
Yeah, public works, yeah.
Okay.
All the capital stuff. And your forestry equipment is.
All right. General Fund for Public Works expenditures. Pretty much is flatline with exception to line item 5170, which is employee wages. We are allocated to be fully staffed. We're looking to hire 4 full-time positions and 3 seasonal. We go to fund account 5409, which is capital outlay. We're looking to purchase a new chipper and truck for the removal of the trees. We go to CBGD funding. We're looking to expend $200,000 to match, or at least our, I'm sorry, you're right, 275 to match, or should I say our match for the CBGD grant for the streets on the north side of Roosevelt Road, in the 2100 block.
Do you want me to follow through these other funds, so after? Okay.
20th, 21st, and 22nd Avenue. The TIF fund account, we've asked for funds to provide security cameras for the police up and down Roosevelt Road so that they can monitor that corridor, including 25th Avenue. Also, we've asked for $50,000 in fund account 5295 to replace some of the waste receptacles. Water fund account is pretty much flat line as it has been for the last 2-3 years. So whatever the budget has typically been for the last 2-3 years in the water fund account will remain consistent. Other than that, we've got no large purchases other than the chipper and the truck for the tree removal. Am I missing anything?
Going to take advantage of that big tree rig where we can get it.
Well,
We haven't got it yet.
we haven't gotten it. So in absence of that, we have budgeted, I believe, $27,000 for the planting of trees in the village. Any questions? Thank you.
Since Matt covered a lot of these others, I'm going to cruise now. Okay. So after we get through the streets department, that's where we come to our excess revenues over expenditures. This dollar amount right here is the $2,054,000. That means we've got $2,054,000 more money coming in than we've got for the activities that we have budgeted this year. Now, as I was speaking about earlier, we're going to use most of that money and a little bit of our savings to accomplish the things that we need to be done in the other funds. Oh, sorry. Everybody follow up to that? Okay, perfect. So we're going to comment. Our budget for the year has a surplus of $2 million. We're going to use that $2 million to transfer to other funds to buy things like our fire truck, our portion of the radio purchases, the contribution to the village's contribution to match the CDBG grant. In the past, people have kind of looked at that, but what you got to remember, we have a fund balance. So if we've got 5.5 million in fund balance, we're using 416,000. It's not that we're going in the hole. We're just using what we've already got. We're going to our savings account. So that's the general fund in a nutshell. So let's just see if we can cruise through these other ones. The garbage fund, there's just not a whole lot to say here. It's the same as it has been in the year. It's pretty much at a break even. What we've got coming in is covering the bills to actually get the garbage picked up. After the garbage, we have IMRF, which I spoke about earlier. That's the fund that we pay our IMF payments, our Social Security, Medicare, and unemployment tax out of. The revenues come from a transfer from the general fund and property taxes. After that, we have the motor fuel tax fund. Matt, I am going to reach out to you on this one. This year, we are doing 2 street projects, Erica and, I forgot the Summerdale. They will be paid for out of this fund. This fund is part of our monthly portion of the motor fuel tax that we receive. We put it in a special account. When we have enough money to do something, we then spend it. The next account is the CDBG fund. Last year, we didn't get a grant. There was no activity in this fund. This year, we were lucky enough to get a grant. We have a project for $475,000 to do. Where our grant was for 200. Our matching portion then is 275. The village is providing that 275 to the CDBG account in order to get this project done and get that $200,000. After that, we have the ETS system, which I had mentioned earlier, we haven't used in a few years. We have the opportunity to expend some of those funds this year, and we're going to do that in conjunction with the grant the fire department has for the new radios. As Matt hit, the TIF has expenditures related to finishing the parking lots, purchasing of, I'll call it furniture, waste backs, benches, et cetera on there. And we have the cameras included in here. And then this should pretty much wrap this TIF up this year, but there is a chance we might get some more money. After that, we have the 17th Avenue TIF, which has closed. It's officially shut down as of 12/31 of last year. We have the remaining money that's in there. All we got to do is make sure everything's paid, and this one is just gone. So after that, we have the 19th Street TIF, which I kind of explained in the first part, so I got ahead of myself. Everything that we get from TIF increment is paid out to the developer that developed the property. So it's a kind of net zero fund. Whatever we get, we pay out. And if we say we're going to get 85 and we only get 62, that's what we pay out. But if we get 170, that's what we pay out. So it offsets each other. Now, the next TIF, someone might has questions about, because you can see there's no revenues coming into this TIF. This is our new TIF, Roosevelt and 17th Avenue. And you can see that we're showing $627,000 of expenditures. But we knew that we had these projects on the books and that the TIF was going to expire. So we ported money from the expiring TIF into the new TIF to take these projects. So the project that's on there is the 17th Avenue water main replacement, and then there'll be a lot of street-related, what do you call it, streetscape projects. The money, even though there's no revenue coming into this account, we ported the $3.25 million months ago. So the cash is sitting there. Debt service fund, it's pretty simple. We've got the bond payment on this building. It's the 2018 capital bond. We got our annual rollover bond. The money comes from property taxes and the proceeds of the annual rollover bond. And that's it. What we get in, we pay. That takes us down to Capital Projects Fund, which I'm going to just skip here because there is no property taxes related here. There is, though, a lot going on this year. Okay. So we have grant funds of roughly $5,050,000. Find my right one here. Okay, so of those grant funds received, 3.5 is coming from the ARPA projects related to our DECA grants. Not the projects related to our DECO grants. So we have got grant money for the Public Works facility, the fire department, and other departments within the village. Of that 5 million, 3.5 of it's coming from there. The other 1.5 is coming from the AFG grant at the fire department. So we're getting the 5,050,733 in grant money. And then I'm going to jump down to the bottom here. And I should have broken this out to make it more clear, but as part of our, what's MOU stand for? MOU? MOU? Memorandum of Understanding between the other fire departments. They are going to contribute cash. And that's the other money coming in to the fire, or into this account to help pay for their portions of the radios. So we will be getting grant money and money from the other participants in the grant to pay for the radios that are the 2.6 million that are purchase of equipment. That's the total cost of the radio purchase. So it will be covered by the grant and the money from the other villages. The other big things in here are the Beach Avenue, and that's also included in the grant money too. Beach Avenue is going to, trying to figure out which one's which. It's the 600,000. The building improvements relate to the DECO grants, which primarily it is going to be Public Works, but it also includes the gun range and the fire department roof. The 20,000, is that budgeted here? The 20,000, there's another $20,000 DECO grant purchase, but it's buried in the same line with the radios. So overall, we're going to make $6.9 million investments either through equipment purchases or fixing up our buildings in the village. The majority of it's being paid through grant money. And then some of this money will be coming from the general fund, basically to meet the matching portions that we need to do. Okay, that takes us to the water fund, and I think Matt kind of summed it up perfectly. There's not a lot that's changed from prior years, and I was explained in the introduction why that's always a negative, because we always budget for the worst case scenario. All the money's break, we spend all the money. But in reality, that hasn't been happening, which is a very good thing for the village. All right. Any questions?
Great job.
Well, thank you everybody for coming out today.
Thank you so much, Director, for that great presentation. Are there any public comments?
Great job.
Great job, thank you so much. Okay. I would like to extend my gratitude to Director Hood and Budget Officer Hicks for their diligent efforts in maintaining our fiscal integrity and responsibilities. Additionally, I appreciate the mayor and the department heads for their contribution to our continued fiscal responsibilities. The budget will be available for public viewing and comments for the next 10 days. Feedback can be directed to Director Hood or Clerk McGreer. I will be providing a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to approve the budget before May the 1st. Okay, are there any questions? Mayor, would you like to have a word?
Good evening, Trustee Shelby and Trustee Abraham. Thank you all for hosting our annual Budget Finance Committee meeting as we did an overview of our fiscal budget for 24-25. And so this budget is a comprehensive budget that we have diligently worked really hard at. We usually start our process in January, so it's several meetings with the finance department and the department heads before we all meet together. So on this past Saturday, the department heads and I spent several hours going line by line in the respective departments and in our general funds to make sure that it was a budget that we can function with, to make sure that we have all the resources and tools we need to sustain. And so from my vantage point, I always talked about being fiscal responsible. This budget is a fiscal responsible budget. It holds all of us accountable, and it also prepares us for sustainability in the future. So as we look at the high cost of food, we look at things that's taking place at a state level, like the grocery sales tax that is going to maybe be imposed on us, looking at how we initiate that initiative that the governor is putting in place. We want to make sure that we're able to sustain the village of Broadview with the services that we provide to each and every one of you all the time. And that's our fire, police, and public works, as well as the employees that work within the village of Broadview. The increase that we are allowed to, I'm really excited about being able to give raises to the employees that work every single day. And so as Director Hood said, it's the 3.5%, but those that's not in collective bargaining, that's at the discretion of the department heads once they do the annual review of the employees that work within their departments. But we're able to do that across the board, and we're hoping that we're able to do that in the future as it relates to the people that work here. We have to be in a position to have competitive wages. And if we're not in position to give competitive wages, we can have the potential of losing good talent for the village of Broadview. So we want to make sure that we maintain fiscal responsibility. We do our due diligence in how we look at maintenance, our equipment, our vehicles, and how we have turnaround. This year in this budget is going to be, as it relates to vehicles, I think we're going to a leasing program, which is cost effective for the village. Instead of owning vehicles, going into a lease where we can automatically renew or upgrade our vehicles on a regular basis and not endure the cost of the liability of having a purchase. So that was cost effective for us. In the building department, bringing in a CSO officer in collaboration with the police department, this is when we talk about how we look at collaboration within our own departments. Even though they do separate jobs, but we collaborate with the employees that work here that can do multiple tasks in other departments. So we've been very diligent in cross-training all of the employees to do different tasks. So therefore, if someone should leave or go on vacation, the ball don't wait till someone get back to work to do anything, so we can stay and maintain. In the fire department, we've had several conversations as it relates to fire engines, ambulances, the building over there that was built in 1966 and not being able to invest in that for a very long time due to the fiscal stability of the village. So today I'm happy to report in the fire department, they will be getting a new fire engine. They will be getting an ambulance, so they're increasing their fleet, their vehicle fleet, as well as a partnership with Cook County, Build Up Cook County, where we're able to invest in the fire department to upgrade that facility, and pretty soon the roof is going to be replaced. So it took us 7 years to get there. And I'd just like to be real clear on how we had to look at our finances to get to where we are today to be able to get the items that we need. Even in the Public Works Department, we're looking to enhance that facility. And they didn't talk about this, but this is all through grant funding that we've been able to get. Probably over the last 7 years with grant funding, I can estimate we're probably close to $20 million in grant funding. And so the work is not easy, it's a heavy lift, but we're here to do it every day. So I actively seek out the funding for the respective departments. We've been very blessed in Broadview to get those, that secure funding to do more, so we're able to enhance our public works department, our fire department, make sure our fleet is in order, and we can sustain with the raises that we give. And I'm actually really proud of the work that we've been doing, because I made a commitment to fire and police, because when they retire, they don't get a retirement plan. So they rely on the pension plan. And we've been paying maximum into pension since I've been here. We've never paid the middle or the below. So we value the people that work here, and we show them by the little things that we can do. As it relates to, it's a lot that we've been actively seeking and going after, and now that we're moving into the environmental sustainability place on what that looks like for the future of Broadview, although we've actively sought out grants for the public works to replace trees, even if the grant is not awarded, it's in our budget to replace trees until we can replace all our trees, and that cannot come out the budget. That has to be a line item every year that we have to make that investment. And so that was a hard conversation for us over the weekend as it relates to how we keep things in the budget so that we can replace that. And trees are important to our community. The community spoke up and was very vocal about replacing trees, and we're going to do that. So with that being said, I just want to thank the Board of Trustees for believing in me, believing in the department heads that do the heavy lifting every single day. It's not an easy task, but we stay the course even in the hard. So I just want to tell the leadership team, thank you for daring to lead and leading to dare. And with that being said, one thank you, Director Hood. So the other thing is, the other thing that we're making an investment in this fiscal budget is the water, the lead service line. So I don't know if Director Ames spoke about this, but our heavy lift for the lead service line is about $40 million. And so with that being said, we have to get strategic in how we strategize and put monies around replacing lead service lines in the village of Broadview. We've already made an initial $250,000 investment in '23. This year, we're going to make another investment, but this one is going to, the lead service lines that will be replaced will be at the local schools, which is Lindop and Roosevelt School, in all home daycare facilities, home daycare-based centers that we have in the town, as well as our Broadview Park District at Schroeder Park and at the Beverly Center. So we will be investing in that, and I can't remember what the dollar amount was, but it's a couple of $100,000 to do that. It's $140,000 to replace that. So we're going to be bringing that online as well. So as we go through the lead service lines, we are actively seeking funding from the state and federal to offset some of the costs for us. The other thing I want to leave you all with is as it relates to the streetscape on Roosevelt Road. We are in our first phase of design and engineering, and so we're having conversation with the village of Maywood to go from 17th Avenue all the way down to 9th Avenue on both sides, because at some point it stops for Broadview and picks up in Maywood. And having the meeting with the leadership, Mayor Booker and his team, with us and our team, we came to a consensus that we will be moving forward with that project. So when we're in Springfield, we will be lobbying for funding to offset the cost for both municipalities to do the work at the same time. So we do a lot of collaboration and partnerships, and that's how we're able to stretch our dollars a little bit further to do a lot more than if we had to carry that burden on the taxpayers that's in the village of Broadview. We have strong businesses that's doing very well. As Director Hood said, our sales tax revenue is very robust at this time. And a lot of that contribution is not just through our local retail, but a lot of that contribution is through our online sales tax revenue. So we are fiscal responsible, we are accountable to how we spend money, but we also, want the residents to know that the work that we do every day, we come here to do it on your behalf, and we're happy to do the heavy lifting. So with that being said, thank you, Trustee Shelby, for chairing the Finance Committee meeting. Anticipating this budget will be for public viewing after tomorrow. It will be on our website. So if there's any questions or comments that come up before it goes to the public hearing, Director Hood will be able to address any questions or concerns that come from the public body. as well as Clerk McGreer will be able to take some of the questions and comments from the public as it relates to the budget. I know it won't be ready before our board meeting, but we will call a special board meeting so that we can approve this budget by May 1st, because by state statute, we have to have an operating budget by May 1st. So we'll get some dates out to the community and to the public, but we believe in transparency, accountability, and being honest with the public, even in hard conversations. So thank you, Director Hood, Trustee Abraham, and to the entire Board of Trustees. Thank you, Trustee Senior, for being here. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all. Have a good night, and I thank you for your support, and I thank you for working together to keep Broadview strong. Have a good evening. I motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I concur. Oh, the time. You need to know the time.
At this time, we will entertain any questions or comments from the public regarding the presentation of the budget. Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, I will call for a motion to adjourn this public hearing for the budget at 7:11.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Hearing none, this budget hearing is hereby adjourned at 7:11 p.m. Thank you all.
Okay, I would like to call our special board meeting to order at 7:12 p.m. We're located at 2350 South 25th Avenue in the Village Municipal Chambers. Mr. Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham.
Here.
Trustee Chamalave. Here. Trustee Senior.
Here.
Mayor Thompson.
Here.
Trustee Shelby.
Here.
Trustee Armour. Trustee Miller. Trustee Miller is absent. Madam President, we do have a quorum. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you all. I will now read the Pledge of Civility. In the interest of civility, I pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community, and understanding that we each may have different ideas for achieving that objective. Now, if we'll be so kind as to have a moment of silence. Moment of silence. Thank you. Next is item 2, new business. Item A, an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Abraham. Madam President, open for discussion.
So we just had the public hearing regarding the budget for 24-25 fiscal year. Trustee Abraham, do you have any questions or comments?
No, none.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chamalave?
No question.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Armour?
I got all my questions sort of answered and clarified earlier, so I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you, Trustee Armour. Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Roll call. Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave.
Yes.
Trustee Senior.
Yes.
Trustee Shelby.
Yes.
Trustee Armour.
Yes.
Trustee Miller is absent. Madam President, this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next item, B, an ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 5, 6, and 7 of the Broadview Village Code of Ordinances regarding the salaries, benefits, and time commitments of certain elected officials in the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Second.
It's been properly motioned by Trustee Senior, seconded by Trustee Armour. Madam President, open for discussion.
Thank you. Trustee Abraham, do you have any questions or comments regarding the legislation regarding the salary?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
No question.
Trustee Chamalave?
No question.
Trustee Shelby?
No, I had all my questions answered earlier. Thank you. No questions.
Trustee Armour?
No questions.
Okay. So I do want to, I'm trying to find the legislation because I wasn't prepared. So this legislation is to increase the salaries for the elected officials, the mayor, the trustees, and the clerk. And the last time that we have on record for salaries being increased it was a couple of 2014, 2015, 2016, so we really unsure of what it really is based off looking at our audits and looking at what was codified for the files. And we do know that there is a gap in the stuff that was codified. So just for the transparency part of the salaries that we're looking at for the elected officials, so for the mayor's position, the salary would increase from $55,000 to $110,000. The liquor commissioner would be increased from $3,000 to $6,000. The board of trustees salary will go from $4,800 to $7,800, and the clerk's salary will go from $12,000 to $24,000. And so I know this is going to be great discussion as it relates to why the increase. And so as we've been evaluating the salary increases for those that is the CEO of a major corporation called municipalities, the salary increase is justified when we look at what the salaries are for our police chief, $141,000, our fire chief, $134,000, our finance director, $120,000, our building commissioner, $104,000, our public works director, $107,000, our village administrator, $85,000, the superintendent of District 92, $190,000, our library executive director, $90,000, and the executive director at the Park District is $85,000. The mayor position, the village president of this municipality, is the lowest paid out of all of these entities that we serve. It's unjust, it's unfair, and it's time to make it right. So I hope other municipalities take leadership role and increase for the elected officials that get all of the calls from the Park District, the library, the school districts, and from everywhere. The businesses, we're responsible for a lot, and we have a skill set that qualifies. And so when we look at the salaries for the trustees, some municipalities don't pay their trustees to take time out of their day to look at legislation, read it, get educated, and be informed. Hillside trustees, they are paid $2,400 a year. Westchester is $5,000 a year. Maywood is $8,000 a year. Forest Park is $10,000 a year. Bellwood is $12,500. Melrose Park is $17,500. And Riverside, they get a $4,800 salary plus a $1,200 stipend, which is a total of $6,000 annual to do a lot of the work that we do. And so it is a time commitment for the trustees. But we need to be fair across the board when we look at wages. Cost of living is going up. In this piece of legislation, we have considered CPI, so that we don't have to, whoever holds this seat, do not have to come before this board to get an increase to justify the salary. It is a full-time position, so we're not given an option. In the past, it was an option. The president of this town could be a full-time or a part-time. Whoever holds the seat will have to be a full-time mayor because it's a full-time responsibility. So with that being said, Trustee Abraham, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Trustee Senior?
No questions.
Trustee Chamalave?
No question.
Trustee Shelby?
No questions.
Trustee Armour?
None.
Mr. Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, we can, Madam President. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave,
Yes.
Trustee Senior,
Yes.
Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
Trustee Armour,
Yes.
Trustee Miller is absent. Madam President, this carries 5-0. Thank you all. Next is item 3, Village Clerk. I have no report. Next, item 4, Village President, Mayor Katrina Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So today we had the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Housing Forward project that's on 10th, and if you haven't had the opportunity, I know they're getting ready to wrap that up at 7:30, but if you haven't had the opportunity, I would recommend that you schedule some time to go see what the units look like. When we talk about families not having adequate housing, this project gives families hope, and in Broadview, I hope that we continue to practice love and kindness for those that have a lack of housing or insecurity for food or even medical care. This is the work that we should be doing, having a compassionate heart for those that's less fortunate than us. Also, I know Ms. Jones is going to be circulating the information for the summer work program. And so that program is for the 14 and 15-year-olds. And so I just want to just tell the Board of Trustees, thank you for passing this budget for 24-25. It means a lot, not just to me, but to the department heads and to the residents that live here, because in this budget, we actually get to use our own dollars to put young people to work. So I'm very grateful for the yes vote from all of the trustees. So thank you, and I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Good night.
So moved.
One more time, please.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please? Okay, thank you. It's been properly motioned by Trustee Armour, seconded by Trustee Shelby to adjourn this evening's meeting. I'll take a quick roll call. Trustee Abraham,
Yes.
Trustee Chamalave,
Yes.
Trustee Senior,
Yes.
Trustee Shelby,
Yes.
Trustee Armour,
Yes.
Trustee Miller is absent. We are hereby adjourned at 7:22 p.m. Thank you all. Have a good evening.